Hello, Chef Andy here over at Amelia's restaurant. Today we're going to make risotto, which is actually a technique of cooking rice rather than a type of rice itself. For risotto, traditionally we use arborio rice, which is a short grain, quite starchy. You can see the starch rubbing off on my fingers already just by running my fingers through it. But it's a very high starch content, small grain rice. You can use carnaroli rice. There's a couple other rice varieties that you can use out there, but the most common that you'll find in grocery stores is arborio rice, which looks just like this. We're going to start off our risotto by sweating out some onions and garlic, then toasting the rice in with it, and then adding moisture one ladle at a time to the risotto. What this does is, and in comparison to peel-off method, is it will allow the starch molecules from the risotto rice or from the arborio rice rather, to release and creates a very nice creamy texture in the rice, rather than peel-off method where you add all of your moisture at one time and then just cook it and steam it until it's done, which is the traditional way that everyone knows how to make rice. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a hot pot going over here, add some oil. We're adding a nice liberal amount of oil because we're going to add first the onions and the garlic, but then we need to make sure we have enough oil to coat the individual rice grains that we're also going to add into that. So we're going to start off, we have our diced up onion and sliced garlic. We'll wait for the pan to get hot here. We're going to throw some in. We're going to add a little bit of salt to the mixture to help the onions sweat out a little bit. Give it a little shake, make sure that the oil that we've used has coated all of the vegetables in there. While we're getting the vegetables going, we're going to heat up some chicken stock in a separate pan over here. When we add the stock to the rice, one ladle at a time, very important that the stock be the same temperature as the rice that we're cooking. For several reasons. One, you don't want to stop the cooking process every time you add a ladle of liquid to the rice. So by having them both at nearly a boil, very high simmer or boil, you'll be able to control the speed at which the risotto is cooking. Also, risotto takes about 25 minutes of stirring, so you want it to be as short as possible unless you have really strong arms. We're starting to sweat out the onions and garlic here. Starting to get a little translucent. This next step in risotto, we're going to add some of the arborio rice to the sweated off vegetables. This step is very important for several reasons. First, basically want to get a nice toast on the rice, which creates nice flavor, color, and also texture. Also, the initial toasting helps the rice release its starch molecules for later on in the cooking process. So once we've got our vegetables sweated off a little bit, we're going to add some rice. Now keep in mind that the rice is going to essentially double in volume, so you want to make sure you have a big enough pot to begin with before you get started. I'm going to use a 500-degree temperature resistant rubber spatula so as to not burn my spatula here. You can also use traditionally a wooden spoon. We're just going to give it a nice stir here. Make sure that all of the oil and the vegetables are mixed up nicely and the rice starts to get a little toast on it. Okay. Now we're going to turn the heat down a little bit. Just let it get a little toast color. You might start to smell it, they might pop a little bit. Just trying to get all the rice grains toasted. Okay, once it's got a little bit of tan color to it, we go ahead and hit the pan with a little bit of white wine. again, we'll deglaze the pan, get everything that's stuck to the bottom of it off the bottom of it. See that all the rice comes right off the bottom of the pan, the addition of the wine. All separated. Okay. Now we're going to start adding liquid, one ladle at a time. Give that a chance to absorb. First ladle absorbed very quickly. We can go ahead and add another ladle. Most important thing with risotto is to continually stir it. That way you won't burn anything on the bottom of your pan, and you'll know when it becomes dry enough and is ready for the addition of more moisture. You can see already that the rice is absorbing pretty much all the moisture I've added so far, so we can go ahead and add another ladle. You want to keep on doing this process until the risotto, you'll see it'll nearly double in volume, and it'll be slightly firm or al dente to the taste. Well, if you leave your risotto rice alone too long, you will burn the bottom of it, and will have a very nice charred, burnt taste to your risotto, which is not very pleasant. Also, if you let it get too dried out, you really can't start it over where you have it. You need to really start over at the beginning, because once the cooking process is stopped, all the starch comes out of the rice and it's done. So it's really, really important that you keep this going from start to finish, and you'll have some beautiful creamy texture without the addition of any cream, mind you, risotto. Once we've got our risotto to an al dente state, you can see it's nearly doubled in size as far as the individual grains. Got a nice creamy texture. Without the addition of cream. That's all from the starch molecules being released from the rice through the process of adding stock to it slowly. What we're going to do, is this is what we do in service here, is we will go ahead and take the rice out of the pan, hot. What we'll go ahead and do is just flatten it out, uniform across the bottom of this pan here. The amount of surface area will help us cool down the rice a lot quicker than leaving it in a pot or in a container. It'll just overcook. We brought it to an al dente state here where it's not crunchy, but it has some bite to it, so it's al dente. And then when we finish it off, we'll fold in some mushrooms, a little bit of cheese, and a little bit more stock. Have some beautiful risotto. So, I'm going to add a little bit of stock. And we're going to take about a quarter's worth of our rice that we've cooled down. Put them in our risotto. Going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. We're going to basically just fold them back into the risotto. You can see my risotto is a little bit dry. We're going to add just a tiny little bit more moisture, a little bit more stock, and finally a little bit of butter at the end. That'll give us a nice, beautiful, creamy, delicious wild mushroom risotto. Beautiful. It's nice and creamy, beautiful texture. The mushrooms look beautiful in it, and we're ready to plate it. We're going to bring it over here. Right in the center of the plate.